What is up, all of our liberty-loving friends? This is another fantastic episode of Good Morning Liberty. My name is Nate Thurston. Across from me is Mr. Charles Chuck Thompson. How's it going today, Chuck?
Living the dream. Happy Valentine's Day.
Hey, thank you, man.
For those that celebrate.
That. Yes. Happy Valentine's Day to all of you. Do you celebrate? Are you going somewhere tonight?
We are, actually, yeah.
God.
Well, but we're going to a show. We're going to a concert, so that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. You ever heard of Cody Johnson?
Nope.
He's
never heard of her.
He's a good country artist.
Yeah.
Been playing down there at Bridgestone Arena.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 2 sold-out shows tonight and tomorrow night.
Yeah.
I mean, that's decent. You ever played Bridgestone Arena?
I have not.
Have you ever wanted to?
At times, I used to. Yeah, I used to want to do that.
Well, he's doing
I'm
that.
not doing anything. Lacey and I, you did it too, but we don't go out on Valentine's Day because we waited tables for like 7 years, and we know how much that day sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't do that, and then we don't get each other gifts. And
well,
so
we're
that's
not going
nice.
to eat.
And so not doing anything. I told her Hallmark invented Valentine's Day to sell cards, and so I didn't get her a card. And I told her the RFK said I can't get her any candy. And she understands. Yeah. So that's fine.
Yeah.
It is Dumb Bleep of the Week, by the way. That's
so
the
is
day.
that number 1, Valentine's Day?
Valentine's Day is honorary number 1. We'll call it number 0.
Yeah.
We'll start at 0. We're going to take a break before the other Dumb Bleeps, by the way. This is the day of the week where the live group throws in submissions, we throw in submissions, and then the Fed Haters Club, join gmail.com. They get to vote on what the dumbest thing of the week was. We're going to do that. I did want to play. To me, this is such a big deal, even though it's unlikely to actually happen. I again have to make the point for everyone how different things actually are right now. And this is Trump yesterday talking about the military budget. Now, as most people know, the military budget is frickin' massive. Like almost $900 billion, I believe.
Almost $1 trillion. Might as
it's
well
really big.
Round it up to $1 trillion.
What's the number we spend more than the next 8 or 9 countries combined that they spend? We spend more on our military. It's massive. Tons of waste and fraud and abuse in that budget, for sure.
They've never passed an audit.
No. And we just had a guy who's the president of the United States right now.
From the Oval Office.
Suggest that we decrease the military budget by 50%. Now, I'm old enough to remember when this would have just gotten you laughed out of the room. You would have had no chance of winning an election after saying something like this.
Trump?
He didn't say it.
Trump talked about it in 2016. That
he didn't say decrease it by 50%.
No, what I'm saying is he talked the opposite. We need to increase military spending. We need to have a strong military.
Yeah.
I remember talking about it back then, even being like, oh my God, our military is already huge. What do you mean? We probably just need to reallocate some money.
Yeah. He does talk a lot about rebuilding our crumbling military, though, because, you can't make it without $800 a year.
Yeah.
That's what it takes to maintain, I'm sure. Here's 15 seconds of that.
One of the first meetings I want to have is with President Xi of China, President Putin of Russia, and I want to say, let's cut our military budget in half. And we can do that. And I think we'll be able to do it.
Elon Musk identify. All right. Is it going to happen, Charlie? Are they going to cut it in half?
Probably not.
Probably not. We get that.
Maybe we'll get 20 or 30% reduction. That's something.
Do you guys understand how monumental it is to even talk about this? That for the president to even... This is not Ron Paul talking about this on the debate stage or on his podcast or whatever it is. It's the actual president of the United States saying that out loud.
Mm-hmm.
It's freaking crazy. And you add into that all the other stuff that has happened over the last few weeks. And, you've got the idea, the possibility that Ron Paul could even be involved in an audit of the Fed. People have said that that's a great idea. Mm-hmm. Musk has said that that's a great idea. That's crazy.
We've canceled DEI completely.
Yeah, that's a thing. Tulsi got confirmed as the director of national intelligence. Imagine we just went from Snowden in 2013, 2014 to now 2025. Imagine the turnaround that just happened in that short amount of time. That we have Snowden in 2013, 2014, and now in 2025, Tulsi Gabbard is running DNI. That is a wild turnaround. in policy from the United States government. It's ridiculous, okay? We've got him seriously trying to get rid of the Department of Education. Laughable that would ever happen.
They literally
right?
shut down USAID.
They shut down USAID.
$40 billion.
The CIA slush fund
Yeah.
known as USAID. That's crazy. They just announced last night that they want to try and fire all of the probationary federal employees. Those are people that have worked for less than 2 years, so you haven't hit your like union tenure yet, where it's almost impossible to fire you at that point. That's 200,000 people that they're looking at. It's not all of them that are going to get fired, but it's going to be a heck of a lot of people that are going to get fired in the federal government. That's a really good thing. He's proposed doing a denuclearization treaty with Russia and China. It's like people want to spend all this money.
I've even seen Scott Horton come out and say this may be the greatest president of all time. Yeah. Potentially. He said potentially.
Potentially. We'll see. We don't know what's actually going to happen. He's sending them in to actually audit the Pentagon, you know, the IRS also. We're talking about the Fed already. It's ridiculous. The things that we're actually talking about. Now, we know that not all of them are actually going to happen. But did you guys ever think that we would be talking about these things happening at the federal government level already? We just went through
without
COVID.
Getting someone like Ron Paul in.
I know. We required a libertarian to get in to do these things. A libertarian was going to have to get in.
And we even
to
talked
get
about
rid of
how
these
they
departments.
We even talked about how they wouldn't be able to do it because it would cause too much disruption.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have Trump going in there and actually doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's and then you have I think the story you want to tell is you have these libertarians that can't see the forest through the trees.
Well, the problem is he's done a lot of good things.
You can't zoom out and be like, okay, you know what? Let me prioritize what I want the future of America to look like for myself and my children, and how free we want to be, and what things need to happen to get there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, well, you know, probably should reduce the military budget by 50%. You know, probably should get rid of all the waste, fraud, and abuse of government spending.
Mm-hmm.
We probably should, you know, maybe try to stave off nuclear war as long as possible. So maybe getting a treaty with the other nuclear powers might be a good idea.
Getting close to ending the Ukraine-Russia conflict,
and
which
then,
could easily escalate into nuclear war.
And then because they hate Trump so much, they can't look at it and be like, oh, man, I'm glad some of these things are happening.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's wild.
And the problem is that there have also been bad things. The Gaza thing, we don't agree with that.
No.
We don't agree with him trying to own Gaza. That's a terrible idea. Okay. It's a really bad idea. Our hope is that there's some kind of negotiation taking place there because it's so clearly a terrible idea, not even supported by his supporters.
Or Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah, we don't like the shipping people to Gitmo. Now, we don't
believe that humans should be held in a place indefinitely without being charged with a crime.
Well, like, why? I mean, Gitmo, you could say Gitmo because, well, we've got some space there, you know. We could send people over there, whatever. But Gitmo kind of escapes, you know, some of our laws. And that's not a good thing. So we don't agree with that. But it's you've got to be capable of looking at the entire picture and just accepting that there are going to be things that you don't like, but that there's a hell of a lot of things going on that you really should like. I mean, my question to a lot of libertarians is, why would you want a libertarian to run for president and win? Because what do you think they would run into when they win and they go in there? What do they want to do? Well, they probably want to get rid of a bunch of these agencies. They probably want to stop wasting a bunch of money. They probably want to decrease taxes, even on wealthy people. They probably want to decrease the military budget by 50% or something like that. They probably want someone like Tulsi in there as DNI. What do you want them to do? Why would you want a libertarian in office?
They probably don't want to tax tip money.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, or Social Security money, stuff like that. But, you know, a lot of people are upset because, you know, it's questionable the legality of the way they're going about some of this stuff. And I'm like, okay, what do you think a libertarian would run into if they got into that office? Same thing. Exact same thing is what they run into. So you're telling me it's pointless. Stop running people. Don't do it. And what I really realized from a lot of these people is that they don't ever really plan on winning. Like, they like talking about it. And I think they like having a social club where they can talk about it and they can talk about their principles. But they can't actually be serious about ever really winning because they haven't played it out yet. They haven't played out what it would actually be like for a libertarian president to get in there. We can't even get these things done.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to get this stuff right here. What are you going to do to a libertarian? That's ridiculous. No way anything good would happen, if the guy actually got, inaugurated, or girl, whatever. That's fine.
And look, I think I have said from the beginning, even though I voted for Trump this time around, I still don't like him. I don't think he's necessarily a good person. I think there's plenty of stuff in his life that has come out where this guy just hasn't done some good things.
Yeah.
I still think he's a liberal Democrat from New York. I still think that he played both sides to whatever benefited him. There are still lots of things that he did in his first term that I don't agree with. I don't agree with tariffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tariffs is another thing to add on that list.
There are several things, but I can zoom out and be like, oh my God, had we had Kamala, you think we'd be talking about slashing the military budget by 50%?
Yeah.
Do you think we would even know the amount of just fraud that we found out about over the last couple weeks? Do you think that we would even be talking about the end of the Department of Education, which libertarians have been talking about for as long as I can remember? None of that would be taking place. It would be status quo. We would be continuing on the Biden administration where there would be more handouts and more favors and higher taxes and bigger deficits and more spending.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't understand how you can't look at what's happening and at least say, oh my God, there's a sliver of libertarianism infiltrating its way through the federal government. Holy shit.
Yeah, my statement was, if Libertarian Party libertarians can't look at all these things and say, this is different, this is good, then honestly, I do not see a future for the LP.
Is that dumb bleep number 2?
Politics.
LP?
These are ghost dumb bleeps right now. They're not even inside a dumb bleep right now.
You didn't put these on the sheet.
No, they're not on the sheets.
These aren't on the...
I'm sick of it. What I'm realizing right now is what I truly care about are results. I care about what we've been talking about. And I think a lot of the libertarians I'm talking about don't take it seriously. The things that we talk about, the government becoming so tyrannical that there's nothing we can do anymore after that, the like absolute authoritarian tyranny over the American people. And I think that they don't take that seriously. Maybe they don't mean it. Like, you're actually getting true potential reductions in those powers. And I take it seriously when I talk about those things. So I'm happy to see these things happening right now. I want to see 1 million less federal employees. That'd be amazing. Of course it would. I want Tulsi as dean. I want all this stuff. I want the outcomes. It's not libertarianism. It's not all for libertarian ideals or whatever. But I want the outcomes. That's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really care.
You want
my
net
thing.
Liberty improvement.
Net liberty improvement, yeah.
And that's literally the needle is in that direction.
Yeah. Okay, so it's time for Dumb Bleep of the Week.
We have some honorary mentions at the beginning.
All right, number
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day itself.
And are you saying some libertarians or LP in general?
No, just some the libertarians who can't bring themselves to look at what's happening and see something good. Those people. It's not all of them. Yeah. It's not all, and it's the people who say, yeah, they're doing all that, but there's this thing that I don't like. And so I can't say that we're going in the right direction. There's something wrong with you. There is. You don't want it. You don't want things to get better. You want to talk about it.
There is no utopia.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't exist. It will never exist. There's going to be a constant negotiation. And we have to make sure what we're doing is moving that conversation towards liberty, moving those actions towards liberty. I wouldn't care if it was Kamala Harris doing the same thing that Trump is doing. I would still be jumping. I would be like, oh my God, can you believe this?
Yeah, it'd be great.
I can't believe I didn't vote for this woman. I'm so pissed at myself. Can I go change my vote? She's going to get rid of the Department of Education? Hell yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I don't care how crazy she laughs.
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't like her take on economics. I think, increasing taxes is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But holy shit, she's going to reduce military spending by 50%?
That'd be a pretty good thing.
I'll hop on the Harris campaign.
Yeah. Now, what's laughable is that would never happen. They would never consider it. There's no way they would ever do it at all. And things different about Republicans is that there are significant portions of them that will consider it, that they do get that underlying idea, even though they don't live up to it all the time. Number one, I wanted to come out with a heavy hitter today. Those are warm-ups. I wanted to come out with a heavy hitter. Reparations. We haven't talked about reparations in a bit. We've got something from Cori Bush. We've got something from Nina Turner. Don't worry, we didn't forget about you, Nina. I already commented on her stuff twice today, just trolling the hell out of her right now.
She probably blocked you.
I want her to think.
Muted
Yeah,
you.
she hasn't responded in a bit.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we're getting muted by some people. Cori Bush says, Charlie,
from 1619 to 1865, the U.S. benefited from over. Now, first of all,
yeah.
okay, Great Britain was 150 something years of that, 160 something years.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
So split that.
yeah, the U.S. Yes.
Yeah.
It's not the case.
It's not the U.S. Benefited from over 222 million hours of unpaid, dehumanizing, forced labor by enslaved black people per scholars. This labor, primarily the production of tobacco, rice, sugar, and cotton, would be valued at over $97 trillion today, built off the backs. And she posted a picture of Kendrick Lamar in the middle of a human U.S. flag.
All right, so doing a little bit of reparations warm-up here. $97 trillion in today's money. Of course, she wants to use today's money, but not today's amount of labor that would have taken, which would have been like a 20th of that amount of labor, but using our modern tools and all that kind of stuff, modern implements and machinery. And so I could easily discount that down to maybe $1 trillion or something immediately. But let's get into Nina Turner here. She says, someone said, are y'all okay? And she said, until black Americans are awarded reparations from our government, the answer to this question cannot possibly be yes. And she says, reminding our government that we are coming for our check is vital to all of this, from chattel slavery to black codes to redlining to Jim Crow to mass incarceration. We're coming for our check. She's coming. She's coming. All right. And then she also tweeted out the other day, reparations are part of America's national debt. No, they're not.
No,
They're
it's
not part of America's national debt.
Also, the debt has been paid
Yeah.
in blood.
You can look at
The
that.
literal answer is 600,000 Americans died, mostly white. Almost all of them were white. 600,000 of them died. There was bloodshed, and that is reparations.
T-Dub said, can we get that song about government again from that DNC candidate that we played last week, I should have had that playing in the background while we were reading this stuff. That would have been pretty good. First off, the government doesn't have any money. Second, when the government does have money, it only has money that it takes from people. Okay, even if the government were to pay out reparations, they'd be taking it from black people to pay them, which would be kind of funny, but not worth it.
Yeah.
Just so you guys know, not worth it, I would say. And I do not owe anything to me, who never owned a slave. I do not owe anything to someone who also was not a slave. That's ridiculous. It's a completely ridiculous idea.
Yep.
And they're going to keep doing it. They're just going to keep doing it. You know why? Because it gets the
what
clicks.
I'm saying is at the time, the reparations were paid at the time that slavery ended. Like slavery, we tried in slavery, then a war broke out, and 600,000 people died, almost all of them being white. And they spilt their blood, and then that is payment.
I mean, you're missing the fact that
for the 100 years, less than 100 years that the United States actually had slavery.
you're missing the fact that she wants some money, though.
And by the way, when
She doesn't have any money, and she wants some money.
okay, and then we have to figure out who owes it, because you have to remember about 4% of Southern Democrats
About 2.6% of
owned slaves. It was
Yeah.
less than 1% of the United States population.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, do we go back through the lineage of the black slave owners too? Does their family members also own reparations to?
No, we're just doing this based on skin color.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's, you got to keep that in mind too.
That's why math is racist, because if you try to actually math it out,
no, it's racist to do the math. And
it's just we need to split $97 trillion among all Black Americans.
Just print it up. Let's print it up. And, here's Representative Summer Lee also saying that we need reparations.
Our government, no matter who is in power, has an obligation to right these wrongs, to provide reparations for descendants of enslaved Africans, to eliminate the racial wealth gap, to uplift the Black community. White supremacy is rampant in this country. Just look at the current administration and our own legislative body. They have contributed to the social and economic harms, to racial terror Black folks have experienced in this country. Now, more than ever, we must acknowledge and repair those harms.
That's a good way to get elected and make money. But it's just a bunch of dumbassery if I ever heard it my whole life.
Yeah, and
that's
I think
what it is.
It keeps, perpetuating the victim narrative that Black people can't get ahead because they're somehow held back. What I find interesting, which was Bailey's point, is that the first tweet we read from Cori Bush had a picture of a Black man and all Black dancers performing at the biggest event in the entire world.
Yeah.
Data-wise.
Allegedly, like 127 million people watch. Oh, wait, 200? No, that's from that. Like 120 million or something like that. I don't know where that data comes from, but some kind of number like that. And that's what I heard.
They're literally performing. So
yeah, they don't get paid for the show, though. It was slavery. They were forced to be there. No, you don't get paid to play it. The idea is you're going to sell an F-ton of music afterwards, which is true. Yeah, which it is true. Yeah, they probably made quite a bit of money. He probably made quite a bit of money after that show, I would say. All right, number 2, because holy crap, we're 21 minutes in. Hey, last week it was half an hour for Don't Bleep number 1, so we're actually pretty efficient right now.
Making progress. I know it doesn't feel like it.
This one is Judge Orders What? The judges have been all over Trump about this, but one of these was especially dumb to me. This is one of the especially dumb ones. A judge ordered the CDC, FDA, and HHS to restore web pages that were deleted to comply with a Trump executive order. Now, what web pages were those? Those were the web pages on HHS, CDC, FDA that were providing information on sex change operations and gender ideology. And of course, they got rid of those. And a judge came in and said, for some reason, I mean, get this. There was a time when they didn't have those web pages. They just didn't exist on the website. Probably wasn't that long ago they didn't have those web pages on the website. But now, somehow, people have a right to those web pages that are on that website. And when you come in and you're running all these executive departments, you can't control what web pages are there or not. Like, that's ridiculous to me. Yeah. First off. Second thing was that this judge, John Bates, it's really...
I tell you, he kind of looks like a pedophile. Yeah. I'll be honest.
The conflicts of interest are happening quite often with these judges these days. Like the wife of this judge is a USAID grant recipient. That seems like a conflict of interest if you're upset with things that Trump is doing.
No way.
That your wife receiving money from USAID would sort of rule you out to someone who should be able to rule on this case. Kind of like that judge in New York ruling on the Trump case and all that. Like, are there not rules about conflicts of interest for judges? I know there have to be.
Yeah.
There have to be rules for that. But I guess those don't matter. I guess those don't matter. That was especially ridiculous to me.
We have to take his orders seriously.
Yeah, you do. Okay. Now, number 3. I knew we could spend some time at the beginning because we're going to move through these pretty quickly. Number 3, Ohio and Mississippi bill aims to make ejaculating without intent to conceive a felony. The bill
What happens if it just goes off in your pants?
Like that jizzed in my pants song.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you just jizz, well, I don't know.
Sorry, officer, it just went off.
I don't know if that's involuntary. Whatever you want to call this. Yeah. Unintentional.
Do we need to run this by Chucky Erection Schumer to figure out what's happening?
All right. So it could cost you $10,000 if you ejaculate without the intent to conceive a child. Now, can they prove intent? How do they prove?
I don't know.
All right.
Is this aimed at, homosexual relationships?
No, it's aimed at women's reproductive rights. So here you go, Charlie.
All right. This just gets uncomfortable.
No, it's fine.
Is spilling semen outside a woman's earmuffs, outside a woman's vagina, a sin? Legislators in Ohio and Mississippi want to fine men up to around $10,000 if they're caught doing so. What? I mean, even if you're married and you're just like, okay, we want to reduce the chances of getting pregnant because we don't have a child right now.
You can't do it.
Can't do it.
No.
A draft bill was, okay, this is Handmaid's Tale. This is what people were talking about. This is the Trump effect, Nate.
Yeah.
A draft bill was released in Ohio this week seeking to make ejaculation without the intent of conceiving a baby a felony offense. Its advocates say the intent is to stir up public debate over reproductive rights and the interpretation and application of biblical law. If United States governments are willing to use interpretations of theological law to regulate women, why not men? Ohio State Representatives Anita Samani.
Now, hold on a sec. I do have a question. It's a legitimate question. Is there something in the Bible specifically about abortion, or because
No.
they call it murder, they
It's
say they have a religious problem with it?
just murder.
Okay. So it's not like abortion specifically.
No.
Legitimate question.
No, there's no, abortion's not mentioned in the Bible.
Okay. So just saying that, being against murder, that's just implementing theological law? Is that why murder is illegal here in the U.S.?
Technically speaking, it is a...
I mean, murder violates your
It is a
property rights of yourself. You have a right to life,
but
for
what's
your
the
life to not be taken.
What's the foundation of that?
I think it works both ways there,
No.
But I did
wasn't-
listen to about an hour of Ayn Rand this morning, so it's a bad day for this conversation.
It wasn't a human ethos.
Yeah.
Go back prior to
I know.
Judeo-Christian societies. There was no human ethos that determined a morality, that life was valuable. I mean, my God, they used to think that, especially a lot of societies, that human life wasn't that valuable. In fact, you could sacrifice them
Yeah.
at whim.
Is this one of those Jordan Peterson, Sam Harris debates about where morality comes from, from religion or from
Kind of.
humanity or whatever? I
I
didn't
mean,
listen to it, but I remember
not
seeing
necess-
something about that.
It was more based on whether or not you could perceive the world through facts or stories, narratives.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is there doesn't have to be. Human history seems to indicate that there needs to be a narrative of morality intertwined to give human life value to where we would make a law like thou shalt not murder.
Okay. All right. Sorry for interrupting. Let's get more to the ridiculous.
Well, so I was saying, all I was saying was, technically speaking,
I got you.
it does come from a theological context.
Mm-hmm.
The right to your life, because you have to first determine whether or not life is valuable.
I got you.
Okay, and how you determine that? We don't see cows' lives as valuable.
I feel like inherently, my life is valuable.
Well, you do now, but
selfishly.
yeah, you do now, but you've also lived through generations
Yeah.
of the narrative.
Okay. I got you.
Anyway, it's an interesting conversation. But back to the
Yeah,
story
back to the
that
story.
matters,
Let's talk about ejaculation.
which is the dumb. Now, what's funny is this was introduced by Democrats to stir up public debate because they want to create bills to control men's bodies because they're mad about bills that control women's bodies.
They know it's not going to go anywhere. They're
Yeah.
just trying to get people to talk about it. Unfortunately, this is such a stupid idea or analogy that no one's going to draw the connection between the two things. If you do, you're an idiot, but no one's going to draw the connection between the two things because it's a terrible analogy. That's the thing that I don't get about this. I don't know. It seems to go a little bit,
Let me get to the important part,
Okay,
which is the name of the bill. Okay.
Oh, is there a name? I didn't even see it.
Ohio State Representatives Anita Samani and Tristan Rader, the authors of the, quote, Conception Begins at Erection Act, or the
Wait, are they banning erections? That
the
doesn't even...
CBEA,
I gotcha.
say its tongue-in-cheek means of highlighting the hypocrisy behind moves to regulate women's bodies. So,
Okay. Can we all just agree that this is dumb and move on?
Yeah, this is dumb.
Okay.
This is dumb.
It's dumb.
By the
We
way,
could have the
no one wants to regulate women's bodies. That's not the thing.
That's the extra dumb part about
There
this.
is especially if you're pregnant with a woman, if you're pregnant with a little girl, that's a woman, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we want to protect their body too.
Yeah, there is another body in there. That's kind of the whole point.
Right.
You know, it's not really protecting women's rights or regulating women's bodies. It has more to do with the life that you perceive to be in there, you know,
Yes.
which is a life because you have to kill it for the procedure to be successful.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, if you don't kill it, then the procedure, you did something wrong. You know, that's wrong. Okay.
No,
anyhow.
this is not an Onion article. This is real.
I like this next section. Debate reaches a climax. That's good. I want to include it in number 3, which is some kind of a ridiculous women's rights conversation for number 3 right now. Michigan state rep says she has sterilized herself to protest Trump. I applaud her. I'll do it too. Good job.
Yeah, great.
Honestly, I think a lot of people should get on board.
More
with
of this.
Yeah, more of this. As many leftists as possible.
I don't know that this
should
is
do
dumb.
this.
I don't know that this is dumb, Nate.
The Democratic Michigan state representative told protesters Wednesday that she underwent voluntary sterilization to avoid becoming pregnant during President Donald Trump's second term. Interesting that that's like the only way that you could avoid becoming pregnant.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that my wife was sterilized or anything like that, surgically. Quote, just under 2 weeks ago, I underwent surgery to ensure that I would never have to navigate a pregnancy in Donald Trump's America. Pretty sure that was already the case, but I don't...
I don't see anybody really lining up out the door.
I don't think she
to
ever had
spill their
with that.
seed.
Sorry, this is not pertinent to the conversation right now. That's just a couple dudes being meme right now. Okay, so number 3 is dumb. We know that. Oh, I had to. Yeah, for number 4, this is good here, except for all the, people getting injured and stuff like that. But from Bushra Shaikh. Upsetting details emerging of 28 injured in Munich attack by 24-year-old Afghan asylum seeker known to police. My thoughts are with those affected and seriously injured in this awful incident. Harming people is never acceptable. However, Germany really needs to get a grip with its increasing demonization of Muslims, ethnic minorities, and migrants. With the racist AfD party on the rise, unfortunately, a symptom of such hate often results in hate.
So we just blame the victims.
A little bit of victim blaming, and they also did what's known as the Norm Macdonald meme, which is a great, R.I.P. to Norm. I was just watching videos from him a couple days ago. I laugh every single time. He once tweeted out in 2016, he said, "What terrifies me is if ISIS were to detonate a nuclear device and kill 50 million Americans, imagine the backlash against peaceful Muslims." And so that's the idea. Like, well, the worst thing that would come out of that would be that people would have a unnecessary Muslim hate, not the 50 million Americans getting killed by someone. And she essentially did the Norm Macdonald meme, which is really great.
Yeah.
How about we just talk about 28 people injured in this attack?
His were a joke. That hers
is serious.
Yeah.
She's doing the meme right now. All right. We're going to keep going because we got a lot. How about the FBI? The FBI argued in court that it had discretion to let Jeffrey Epstein operate with impunity. Now, that is probably legally the case. It probably is. But I do want to point out that we should abolish this agency, and this is yet another reason why. Okay? A group of Jeffrey Epstein victims is suing the FBI for allowing his sex trafficking network to operate with impunity, but the Bureau filed a motion to dismiss last week, arguing that it had discretion to do so. The FBI's February 5th motion to dismiss is a response to 17 anonymous Epstein victims, as well as 2 that are named. Those victims allege that the FBI failed to take appropriate action in light of complaints made regarding Epstein and subsequently botched and covered up investigations for years, which is true. They didn't deny that. What they argue was that they have there is no legal doctrine that says that they have to take action on something.
Exactly.
And that is what they argued in court.
But the government's here to protect you.
We are not bound legally to take action on a case, okay? And so you have no grounds to sue us. Just keep that in mind for your beautiful agencies, everyone out there. They said plaintiffs point to no non-discretionary duty that governed the FBI's decision-making. Absent such a mandatory directive, the FBI maintains discretion in how to follow up on tips of criminal conduct. Courts have made it clear that decisions by FBI employees on whether to investigate and follow up on the information they receive from the public are ones in which the FBI is afforded broad discretion. The Justice Department argued in the motion to dismiss. Now, unfortunately, my suspicion is that this happened after Epstein had already been in trouble for trafficking people before that, and that if they got tips that he was trafficking people, they were like, yeah, he's trafficking people.
Yeah.
And then they, let's see. Yeah, the FBI employees who received this tip were not constrained to take mandatory and specific steps during their assessment of the tips. FBI personnel retain discretion to determine whether a tip indicates a credible threat that is appropriate for FBI involvement. So the 17 people that came forward, plus the other 2 that were named, so I guess there's 19 people that are suing right here, at least, coming forward. Sorry about it, you know. That's too bad. That's too bad for you. There's a little bit in here about the whole story, 96 to 2006. You guys know the Epstein thing. Like, I don't know if we have to go through the whole thing.
No, we don't.
Okay.
This is just evidence of how the government doesn't care about you.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
At all. So the folks that want more government to protect you, or they want to give the guns just to the government, what happens when you call them and they don't show up? Because they don't have to.
I have no mandatory duty to follow up on anything.
And what's the incentive? They're going to get paid regardless of whether they do their job or not.
Probably get a raise. And if they do a bad job, their budget will go up because they didn't have enough money. The problem is probably that they didn't have enough resources to investigate this.
And if they
There's just no way.
If they do investigate it, they're going to lose their Epstein pension fund. And who wants that? The incentives are backwards.
It's so gross here. Like one part here, even when the FBI opened an investigation into Epstein in 2006, the result was a sweetheart deal where he pled guilty to solicitation of a minor in exchange for non-prosecution. Epstein served 13 months in jail, during which time he was allowed to leave for work release during the day. The FBI then closed its investigation in 2008, allowing Epstein to run amok for another decade afterwards. It does seem like a pretty unusual plea deal. It kind of seems like he's connected to a lot of people that are very high up. That would be my guess, and he didn't kill himself. Just add that in there. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks a lot, FBI. You're sick. Time for all of you to go. Can we at least argue that all of these people need fired?
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
I bet you can't fire them. There's probably a judge is going to say that you have to rehire those great people. All right, we got a few ridiculous Trump authoritarianism tweets here. One from Bill Kristol. On the left, you'll find
he's mad that his funding got cut from USAID.
He even has funding to tweet this out. On the left, you'll see a picture of Lenin and Stalin, and on the right, you'll see a picture of Trump and Musk. So the caption here says Lenin and Stalin, Trump and Musk.
Now, I'll remind you that Bill Kristol ran an organization fighting for democracy that received, I think, somewhere around 20 million plus of USAID funding.
Well, you don't like democracy?
For that. So I think
are you against democracy?
I think he's pretty upset. Didn't he lose a pretty bad debate to Scott Horton?
Yeah, that was him.
Yeah.
I believe that was him. Pretty sure. Yeah. Yeah, that was that guy. That guy's sad face is burned into my mind forever. I can see it in that photo. We can obviously make fun of this by saying my sarcastic response to this on X was, the worst part about Stalin's regime was when he decreased his own executive powers and tried to stop the wasteful abuse of taxpayer money. That was one of the worst. They kind of align pretty closely.
I like Magoo's point in the Fed Haters Club. And here's Bert and Ernie. What's your point?
Yeah.
Just post pictures of duos.
Joe Walsh is included in Dumb Bleep number 6. Not from the Eagles. It's not the guitar player.
Yeah.
It's
the
former congressman.
Yeah.
He says, go ahead, Charlie.
This is what authoritarianism looks like. It's taken 249 years to come to America. It's up to the American people to resist it, to defeat it. I hope we do. Donald Trump is everything our founding fathers feared. How do these people just take like the opposite angle and then make it? Do
you remember talking
I gotta tell you, I don't even know like if I'm sophisticated enough to do this.
Yeah. To do that?
Yeah, to have these like wild mental gymnastics, to
be able to gaslight at that level.
Yeah, I don't have the sophistication for that.
I mean,
Part of me is a little jealous.
think of all the things that we listed off about what Trump was trying to do. And then ask yourself, I mean, think about the things. Trying to get rid of some of the federal departments. Trying to fire some of the 2.3 million federal employees that there are out there.
Cutting out waste.
Yeah.
Fraud.
Trying to get rid of all the waste, the fraud and the abuse, while the government's spending 23% of our GDP every year, while they're taking 17% of our GDP every year. Something that alone would have had the founding fathers tar and feathering people like nobody's business, okay? But to look at those things and say that Trump is everything our founding fathers feared, what? Because he's potentially, maybe, not going through the proper channels while trying to delete unconstitutional, tyrannical, bureaucratic agencies that the founding fathers would not agree should exist. Like, you have to think that the founding fathers would be like, well, yeah, that stuff exists. You know, you gotta get the right people. In
This is
Congress
maybe
and all
where
that.
This is maybe where sometimes I think that maybe the leftists were right. We do need a Department of Misinformation so we can flag these tweets.
Yeah.
But the real answer is it should be out in the open so we can make fun of people who have stupid points like this.
Yes.
And that's
You should.
yeah,
You want to know who these people are.
That's how you actually combat the ideas.
Mhm.
You read their ideas, and then you talk about how actually retarded it is.
Yeah, if you don't know what these people think, how are you going to recommend sterilization to the right people?
Exactly.
Okay, we talked about this one yesterday. Dumb Bleep number 7 from Politico. Voters were right about the economy. The data was wrong.
This is after losing their government funding.
Yeah, that's true. No, the premise of this one was that all of a sudden they decided to talk about the real economy, something that we talked about a lot over the last several years, that inflation is actually much higher than the government statistics, that unemployment is actually much higher than the government statistics. You could look at the labor force participation numbers and tell people, based on that.
Or you could just talk to everyday people and
Yeah.
realize that it doesn't matter what the government and media is trying to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
People's pocketbooks understand what's actually happening when they check out at the grocery store.
But somehow, even after trying to tell everyone over the last year or so that the Biden economy was the world's best economy that we've ever seen in the history of America, I mean, look at the numbers. Look at the numbers, man. Look at the GDP.
The data doesn't lie.
Data. You guys have been misinformed. You're reading the post on X from Elon Musk, and that is telling you how
Not
you
only
feel
that,
about the economy.
They were trying
You know?
to silence people who didn't agree
Mm-hmm.
with the fact that Bidenomics was, like it won the Nobel Peace Prize. If you didn't agree with that, like there was something wrong with you.
But now that Trump is in office, they're going to be able to talk about the real economy. We will have to do our job as unbiased libertarian podcast hosts and agree with the fact that, yeah, inflation is much worse than what the numbers show.
That's true.
Unemployment is worse than what the numbers show.
Mm-hmm.
And that the economy is not all that great. It's, in relation to 50 years ago, people got a better standard of living than they ever have. Maybe even in relation to 20 years ago, people have a better standard technically with all the cool stuff we got, if you think that that's all super important. But things are not going as well as the numbers suggest. And I'm glad they're going to come around to talking about that just in time so they can mention it while Trump is the president. That's great. Number 8, Charlie. I mean, I feel like we had to put this as a dumb. It's not like a big heavy hitter, but it should take us about a minute to talk about, to soak in the fact that.
If you haven't heard,
Yeah.
federal employee retirements are processed using paper by hand in an old. If that's not bad enough.
Yeah.
Let me tell you where this takes place. In an old limestone mine in Pennsylvania, 700 plus mine workers, as Doge put it, operate 230 feet underground to process 10,000 applications per month, which are stored in manila envelopes and cardboard boxes. The retirement process takes multiple months. So this is what this is the advancement your federal government has made when it comes to processing your
What do you think?
retirement if you worked for the federal government.
What do you think their reasoning is behind this, other than just being terrible at everything that they do? And they're like, well, this is how we do it. You know what? If we modernize, we'll have to fire some people. And you don't want to do that.
It's a jobs program. Some
It's a
people
job
are gonna,
factory.
Some people are going to argue that it's, it's secure because it's not part of a database.
Yeah. They'll argue it's secure. That'll be the big thing. You
Yeah.
can't hack into that. But guess what? A lot of people retire across the U.S., not just people who work for the federal government. A lot of people retire. And why don't you just keep your system safe? That would be my recommendation. Plus, you're retired. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know, that thing too. But we had to make fun of that. They did such a good job laying that out, complete with calling the people that work there mine workers, which is really funny, and set up, you know, a lot of great ideas for some really great memes, if I do say so myself. Number 9, finally a video. Been sick of just hearing us talk this whole time. We got to talk about how...
Although apparently this is what gets us in trouble with YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
They say we don't have
videos
original enough
bad.
content.
We've got this congresswoman from Oregon suggesting what... Is it women specifically have to do to Trump, or is it everyone? I don't know what the rule is here. My response to this was women. Is this true? Here we go.
I've been told I have 30 seconds, so I am going to tell you that we do have to. I don't swear in public very well, but we have to fuck Trump. Please don't tell my children that I just did that.
I think they know. Yeah.
Tell him what?
Tell him.
You said that? You said did that? You did it?
You did that.
Yeah.
She's going to F Trump.
You let him grab you by the P word?
You know, maybe we're missing context here, but I think she's actually talking about the best way to do this is for everyone to bang Trump. I think that's what she's talking about. You know, specifically, that is their plan.
Yeah.
Just to bang him out of office. It's just real hard.
Get him caught up in one of them Clinton scandals. You know?
I kind of named this, I called it F Trump, but I wanted to include some other lefty freakouts that we've talked about throughout the week, like CNN's Caitlin Collins and the constitutional crisis that we are in right now.
We are 3 weeks into the second Trump presidency, 3 weeks, and tonight there are warnings that the U.S. is dangerously close to a constitutional crisis. Now, the first shoe on this dropped when a federal judge today said the White House is defying his order to unfreeze billions of dollars in federal aid, marking the first time that we've had a judge expressly accuse the Trump administration of ignoring a court ruling. And in a separate case today, federal employees here in Washington told a judge that the administration was defying another order by not reinstating workers who had been put on leave. Now, this all has prominent Democrats and many of the nation's top constitutional...
All right, so we got that from CNN, the constitutional crisis. We all know that. We had Chris Murphy on there talking about the end of our democracy and the society unraveling because of what's happening with Trump right now. And we've got a long precedent of judges issuing orders and everyone acting like that is a new law. As we found out really this week, honestly, it's not exactly the case. We've got a couple hundred years of precedent of that being treated as if someone just wrote a new law. But it's actually more complicated than that. You're really just breaking with precedent, not really breaking with the Constitution, honestly.
Yep.
That might sound messy, but you're not really breaking with the Constitution on that. All right, so we got the F Trump. We got a constitutional crisis. We got that out of the way for the freakout. And then...
That's number 9, the freakout?
That's number 9. How about some more freakout? Couple things here about Musk. You guys know Musk. Heard of him before?
Yeah.
I've heard of him before. We got a few things here about Musk. One, this is a funny thing that happened. Now, to be clear, there's this $400 million contract that people found because now people are worried about what the government's spending money on. And people on the left found something they're worried about the government spending money on. And it was a $400 million contract for Tesla, for armored Teslas. Yeah, probably Cybertrucks, something like that. Well, that's a heck of a lot of Cybertrucks that are going to have some really beefed up armor, or they're just way overpriced because they're selling them to the government. Just to be clear, hey, everyone take note. This is what it's like to be unbiased. I believe this contract should be canceled.
Yeah.
How about that?
Mm-hmm.
How about that? I don't think the government should spend this money.
Not on armored Tesla vehicles. We don't need them.
The only way I would decide they need to spend the money, well, they don't need to spend the money. The only way I would say Tesla needs to get this contract is if they're going to spend the money on armored vehicles regardless, and they need a certain number of armored vehicles And Tesla is the cheapest place they can get these armored vehicles for people to drive around in. Like, if they're still going to spend the money, or if they're still going to get whatever amount of vehicles that is, then sure, go with the cheapest person that you can get.
Yep.
And, maximizing your armor capabilities, I guess, as well. Starting with a vehicle that's almost armored on its own is a good way to start, I would say. But anyway, here's there's a nice little, Jesse Waters clears this up for everyone here at the end.
Elon Musk has apparently somehow convinced the United States government, specifically the United States Department of State, that the taxpayers of the United States of America should spend $400 million buying, quote, armored Tesla production units. Isn't it great and definitely not at all illegal or profoundly corrupt? Definitely not ripping us all off to pay themselves, right?
Donald Trump didn't give that contract to Elon Musk. Joe Biden gave it to him.
So that is sort of the important part of this whole thing.
Yeah.
Is that people have been freaking out.
Also, did you hear the way she talked about that? $400 million. Is this not corruption? She won't talk about the $40 billion in USAID.
That's such a small part of our
which
budget.
is 10 times more than 400 billion. I'm sorry, 100 times
100
more.
times more
than 400 million.
No, it's this one that's really important.
This is corruption.
Now, to be fair, Musk has been going through and announcing big events like canceling a $25,000 contract somewhere, something like that. Like, we're going to cancel that $25K. There is this $400 million one over here. That would get you a nice chunk of change on your Doge website if you wanted to do that, Elon. What I would have to know is the government still going to go somewhere to get those vehicles, and is this the best deal? But at the end of the day, taxation is theft, and I do not support it. They should buy their own freaking armored vehicles. All right, what else do we have in this Musk freak out? We've got, the 8.
Is this Dumb Bleep number 10?
This is number 10.
Okay, so we're separating Democrat freak out from Musk freak out.
Yeah, we're just doing Musk freak out specifically right now.
As a category.
Like, if you wanted to talk about this D pick, you know what I mean by D pick? Well, this guy brought a D pick.
Is that below the waist selfie?
Well, it's a D pick right now.
I find it ironic, of course, that our chairwoman, Congresswoman Green, is in charge of running this committee. Now, in the last Congress, Chairwoman Green literally showed a dick pic in our oversight congressional hearing. So I thought I'd bring one as well. Now, this, of course, we know is President Elon Musk. He's also the world's richest man. He was the biggest political donor in the last election. I find it ironic.
All right, there we go.
So you renamed Musk Dick?
It's a D pick. All right, and now this is where I get really annoyed with people, because they've come up with this new narrative that Elon Musk is getting paid $8 million a day by the federal government. And I get really annoyed by that for their very hypocritical reasons that they're saying things like this. But let's listen to the clip.
Mr. Talcove, do you know how much money a day Mr. Musk will receive from the federal government for his contracts?
No.
The answer is $8 million a day. Just last year, Elon Musk was promised $3 billion from close to 100 contracts with the federal government. Ms. Royal, do you know how much the average person in this country who survives on Social Security, one of our seniors who's worked their entire life, about how much they have to survive on a day?
I do not.
$65 a day. We're not looking into Elon Musk's $8 million a day. This subcommittee, chaired by Marjorie Taylor Greene and the House Republicans, is looking into your grandmother's $65 a day. Let me be clear. I think we would all support taxpayer savings.
I'm glad he's clear about this.
Look into money we might needlessly send to billionaires and big corporations, find taxpayer savings, and send it back to your hardworking family.
Now, I wanted to include that last part right there because he supports taxpayer savings. And that's why we should stop using SpaceX and send all that money back to NASA and have them launch stuff into space.
Yeah.
I'm getting so annoyed with so many people thinking they're dunking on this idea right here. Like this person who said Doge could save $18 billion by canceling Musk's SpaceX and Tesla subsidies. Most of that is SpaceX, by the way, because they're like basically the sole provider of taking things to space.
Yeah.
Almost.
Now, I will agree with canceling carbon credits.
Yeah.
So Tesla has made their profit, let's say, off of selling carbon credits to other motorists, which is federal government money.
Yeah.
That should absolutely be canceled. That's an unbiased take. We shouldn't be spending money on carbon credits.
What's funny is they're also going after Musk for saying something else, which is that, you know, that $7,500 EV credit? He has suggested that we end that EV credit. And then their response is, well, that's just because Tesla's in a better position and he knows it'll hurt his competition. And so that's even more corruption from Elon Musk wanting to cancel that $7,500 EV credit.
Yeah.
You know,
they'll find a way.
The most annoying thing to me about this is that most of these people probably would not support the idea of the government not sending things to space anymore. Like, you think if we were going to Mars or whatever, you think the government wants no involvement in that? Do they want a flag put up there? They want that American flag up there? They want it on the side of the ship when it's going out there? Of course they do. They want to be the people that are doing this. Does the Air Force want satellites up in space? They probably want some satellites up in space. Okay, we all get that. And most of these people, I don't know if they want to get rid of NASA or not, if they want to get rid of all space exploration and also the sending of satellites up into space as well. But the thing is, if you want the government to be involved in those things, then you want them to be using SpaceX. And what I get so mad about this is that because they hate Elon Musk so much, they would actually rather spend 10 to 20 times as much of your money just so it doesn't go to one of Elon Musk's companies. They'd rather you spend 10 to 20 times as much money to do those same things. And
not even do the same thing.
Yeah, way less
to do.
And it'll take way longer for it to happen.
You realize, like, SpaceX, they've done impossible things that NASA never even considered or thought were impossible. Reusable rockets? What?
Yeah.
You're telling me SpaceX just now came up with this, and NASA's been in business since, the 50s, and they've never thought to reuse rockets to save the taxpayer money? There's no incentive.
They don't need to.
They don't need to. They can build a $1 billion rocket and dump it off in the ocean. They'll just build another one.
That's good for the economy. It's good for the economy.
It's good for jobs.
Yeah. It's good for all those people working
as long
in
as
that
they can
factory.
steal your money to do it.
And so
well, it's also a false dichotomy too. It's a false comparison to say Elon Musk himself is receiving $8 million a day, because he's not. It's going to companies that Elon Musk is invested in and he owns and runs them, versus your grandmother's $65 a day.
Which, first off,
that's a false comparison.
They're not even going after. I'm glad you brought that up. They're not even going after your grandmother's $65 a day. They're trying to see if your grandmother, who died 100 years ago, is still getting paid $65 a day. And they don't want anyone to look into it. Okay? Maybe not 100 years ago, but 50 years ago, whatever it is. They want to look into that. They're not trying to take away your grandma's money. They're trying to make sure that your grandma can still be getting your great-great-grandma's money. That's who they're trying to take away.
Yeah.
Okay? And they don't want to look into it. We talked about that thing.
Because you may not realize it, honey, but she's dead.
She's super dead.
Yeah.
Okay? That money's still going out.
Who's cashing these checks?
It feels like it'd be pretty easy to look into where the checks are going and who's cashing them.
Right.
But
isn't that already fraud?
Like, it's too dangerous to let big balls get in the system. Okay?
Yeah.
It's just way too dangerous. And must have been tough for big balls to go in and then have to go out and now finish all his work.
Yes.
But you know what I mean.
Probably having a pretty blue day.
He's feeling super blue. And then the last point,
definitely gonna have a blue Christmas.
The last point that I want to make here, this one came from Kyle Kulinski. The idea here is that the only reason they're going after all of these agencies is because these are agencies that have investigated Elon Musk. And so that's why they're going after these agencies. Now, I can admit that could be some incentive. Maybe there's some excitement that came from Elon Musk about going after some of these agencies because they've been going after him. But I don't like the principle that this sets up. First off, they didn't list all the agencies that he's going after because there are some that have not investigated Elon Musk, and then they would have to put them oddly in one of the other circles, and it would make as good of a meme. So they only put those that he's going after. So that's first off. Second off, some of these agencies, what do you guys think? Do you think that they're actually going after him because of whatever the investigations were about, or is it because they were going to do everything they could to try and stop him from owning X and probably changing the entire world after buying X and instituting somewhat free speech on X? I would say it has something to do with that. What you're telling me is that you could weaponize agencies against someone, and then if they ever get into a position of power, well, it would be bad if they wanted to go after those agencies, because those agencies have once investigated that person, even though they were weaponized against them, or they had gone through massive overreach and were going after him for really stupid stuff, like the Department of Transportation and the National Highway Transportation Safety, whatever you want to call that thing. So many investigations into Tesla crashes, like every crash. There's so few of them. They were investigating like every Tesla crash. Okay?
They had the resources.
Like all the crashes. There was not that many of them.
Yeah.
All right. In fact, I did bring a chart because they were investigating they had 8 different investigations going on from people who had died in the crash of a Tesla. And my question is why? They are so clearly more safe, so clearly safer than all the other cars out there on the road. Why is it that they were going after him for all of these things? You don't think there was ever any kind of political reason that they were going after him? You're talking.
My God, they average 5 to 7 million miles.
Yeah.
In between accidents.
Miles driven per one accident. Q4 2024 was almost 6 million miles driven before an accident occurs when they're using autopilot technology. And they were investigating the full self-driving autopilot technology because it's just so damn dangerous. And they got 6 million miles per one accident when it's engaged, compared to about 600,000 miles per one accident in a normal vehicle. And they're going after Tesla. Why? Someone tell me why. But then if he gets in there and he says, well, this agency's doing dumb stuff, well, that's only because he's corrupt. And
it's only retaliatory.
He just doesn't want to be held to account for creating the safest vehicle on the road. What drives me nuts about this is that you can weaponize government against someone, and then if they try to turn around and fix the problem afterwards, you can say, well, this is just pure corruption. This is just retaliation because we were trying to hold someone to a code of justice. That's all this was. And it's the gaslighting inside of that just drives me insane. It sets up a really terrible structure where you might as well just weaponize the government against people, because then they could never come back and go after you, because that would look bad. That's what you're suggesting.
Set your brain on fire, doesn't it? Drives you mad.
Drives me nuts.
You want to, hit your head up against a wall until you can't feel anything anymore, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, I get it.
Bottom line is, don't talk about my BFF Elon. All right, let's get the votes in.
Get your votes in. Nate, run back over them.
Let's see what we got in here. Where do I go to find that? Why is that collapsed right now? There we go. Let's go through these. Number 1, reparations. Number 2, judge orders the gender-affirming websites be put back up. Number 3, I was trying to find a no ejaculation without, but not representation. I don't know what the no ejaculation without baby making laws that there are. Number 4, the Muslim backlash and the Norm Macdonald meme. Number 5, the FBI, Epstein. Number 6, Joe Walsh and who was the other guy? Bill Kristol, talking about this tyrannical state that we have right now. If you go after the deep state, that is tyranny. Let me tell you what, it sure is. Number 7, Politico, the numbers are wrong. Number 8,
which is so funny,
the Doge retirements post. Number 9, F Trump. And number 10, the Musk meltdown.
We have a clear winner.
Yeah, it's already going to be the ejaculation article. That's the winner.
Yep.
We don't even have to wait.
Wait,
what just happened? Did it just stop?
Oh, you hit the table and it looks like it went away.
What happened?
Everything went
away. Come back. Uh-oh.
There it is.
Come back. Come back. Okay, we're back.
All right, y'all. Glad you voted. I'm glad to see that, I'm glad to see we can make laws against men's bodies and try to control them. And, make sure you got a tunnel that you can drop your seeds in.
Yeah. And if you don't have one when you start, make sure there's one close when you finish.
Not that congresswoman, though, because she sterilized herself.
No. Actually, would it be illegal?
It would
to
be
have sex
because,
with her?
yeah, because you know that you can't make a baby.
How did we
So
not
that
draw
would-
that? Those two were right next to each other. How did we not connect those two dots together right
You
then? This is
can't-
even dumber than we thought.
Can't spill any of your...
It's now illegal for her to have sex with a man.
It is. Yeah.
It would be. This is a fake law, but whatever.
Because the intent, the intent to not make a baby, you
Okay.
clearly know going into it, she sterilized herself.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed all that, then I hope you share the show with a friend or a family member. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Go to GodHatesFeds.com to be part of the voting crowd. We do have a financial barrier to vote.
Yeah.
And that is to be part of the Fed Haters Club.
It's called the poll tax.
Where you donate a significantly small amount of money every single month so that we can...
An insignificantly small amount of money.
So that we can continue bringing you the best things across the internet that you so thoroughly enjoy, like making sure you ejaculate in places that matter the most.
Yeah.
So you're not going to hear that anywhere else.
No, you're not.
So you might as well come join the Fed Haters Club. GodHatesFeds.com or join gmail.com. Do all that or don't. I don't really care. Visit the sponsors, though. You should do that. That would be nice of you. And if you do that, we'll be back again on Monday. Hope you have a good day, a good weekend, and a good morning, Liberty.